Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am Pragya and today we are covering a truly wild game from the Women's FIDE Candidate Tournament 2026 played between Grandmaster Vaishali Rameshbabu versus Grandmaster Zhongyi from round 7 before the rest day. So let's see how the game unfolds. Vaishali played e4, d6, d4, knight f6, bishop d3. Vaishali avoids the main line knight c3, f3, the Austrian attack, and plays bishop d3, a solid choice that says I want a stable structure and I will outplay you positionally. She diverted from the main theory. This is a Pirc Defense opening from the black side, e5, by Tan, c3, knight bd7, bishop c2. The bishop retreats to c2 on move 5, a key prophylactic idea supporting d4 with white queen. After e into d4, c into d4 and staying out of tactical lines. b6, knight e2, bishop b7, knight d2, g6, white castles, bishop g7. Tan responds with a double fianchetto setup, b6, bishop b7, g6, bishop g7, a hybrid Pirc modern structure. Both bishops fianchettoed, solid but slightly passive. Vaishali's opening preparation here was clearly aimed at avoiding Tan's theoretical knowledge. The bishop c2 and c3 setup is a slow but poison-free approach. f4, too committal. White pushes f4 aggressively, launching a kingside attack, but this weakens the e4 square, loosens white king, and gives black a long-term target on f4. Rook e1 first was more flexible, keeping options open. Black castles. Knight g3. Bishop a6. Wrong plan. Tan moves the bishop to a6, intending to trade it for white's dark squared bishop, but white's bishop c2 is passive and not really threatening anything critical. This misplaces the bishop and loosens the queen side. Rook e8 was correct, centralizing the rook and putting pressure on the e4 and keeping a structural integrity. Moving a developed piece to a worse square is a warning sign. Bishop a6 removes the bishop from the main battleground, and it gives Vaishali's a creative idea of playing rook f3. The rook lift. Vaishali's creative play, a stunning rook lift. The rook swings to f3, eyeing g3 h3 for kingside's attack or the third rank for lateral activity. E takes d4, c takes d4, c5, e5, knight e8, bishop e4, rook c8, rook a3. Now the rook comes to a3, threatening to take the bishop a6. This is unusual and imaginative. Knight b8, supporting the bishop. Rook takes a6, which was controlling this beautiful white diagonal. The exchange sacrifice, rook for bishop, Vaishali gives up material for activity. Knight takes rook, bishop incoming, threatening the rook and knight at the same time. Vaishali played bishop b7. The bishop swings in. Rook b8, attacking the bishop. And white takes knight. White gives rook, gains bishop plus knight, practically equal in raw material, but black's queen side is shattered. Not pure calculation, but positional sacrifice. Vaishali understood that bishop a6 was black's key piece, coordinating queen side play, and eliminating it while creating chaos was justified practically. b5. Planning to capture the white bishops by blocking any means of escape. a5, b5 blocks the retreat of white bishop, and black can play knight c7, knight a6 to capture the piece. a4. The only move that attacks the b5 pawn to open up the white bishop diagonally. Queen a5, attacking the bishop. Bishop takes b5. Rook takes b5. The a4 pawn cannot capture the rook because then white rook will hang on the a file. So here white went for knight b3, which is an inaccuracy. Knight c4 was better. Knight b3 allows black to trade the rook for the knight, gaining a powerful pass d4 pawn. But if Vaishali placed her knight on knight c4, then it attacked the queen, the pawn, and was centralized beautifully in the center. But she did mistake and she played knight b3. Rook takes knight. Queen takes rook. C into d4, a powerful pass d4 pawn. E into d6. This is a serious mistake. White advances the pawn, hoping to create counterplay, but queen e1 check is a powerful, surprising move. Black now has a passed d-pawn, active queen and a dominant knight heading to d6. Black is clearly winning. Vaishali was in time trouble here under 2 minutes on the clock. These mistakes are understandable under pressure but show why time management is a skill at the highest level. Queen b5 would have maintained a fighting position. But here, under the time pressure, Vaishali, she played e into d6. Tan played queen e1 check. Knight f1. Knight into d6. Queen g3. Queen e2. Queen f2, offering queen exchange. d3. Bishop e3. And then knight e4. This is the turning point of the entire game. Black is on the verge of winning. The d3 pawn is a monster. The queen on the e2 is active and white is in desperate shape. But Tan plays knight e4. A good looking move that is actually a catastrophic blunder. Why? Knight e4 is bad because it follows queen into e2, which Vaishali played d into e2, knight g3, rook e8, knight into e4, rook into e4, king f2, and you will see that black will lose its important passed pawn. Bishop takes b2, rook e1, rook takes a4, rook takes pawn. Both sides play out a rook and bishop endgame with near equal chances. Vaishali shows excellent defensive resilience, keeping the rook active, king centralized, and staying in the game despite being lower rated. Bishop f6, rook c2. Notable defensive technique, active rook placement by playing rook c2. h5, king f3, a5, rook c6. Rook invades the 6th rank, creating counterplay. King g7, rook a6, rook a1, the decisive blow. And here Vaishali pounces back with rook takes f6. Vaishali sacrifices the rook for the bishop. Rook f1, king e2, king takes f6, king takes rook, white king captures black rook, white wins a full bishop for nothing. The endgame is now technically won for Vaishali. This is textbook tactical alertness. Always scan for such surprising in-between moves. The key idea is that after rook f6, if black takes the rook, white will play bishop d4, attacking both the king and the rook. Black has to move its king and then white will simply capture the rook. So, this was a brilliant tactical alertness showed by Vaishali. King f5, king e2, king e4, g3, a4, bishop c5, h4, bishop e7, h takes g3, h into g3, king d4, king f3, f5, bishop f8. Bishop f8 is particularly elegant bishop move, cutting off the black king and eyeing the g7, g6 pawn complex. King d3, king g2, king a3, king h3, king f2, king h4. Vaishali's king marches to h4 while the bishop controls key squares. The plan is clear. King to h4, h5 to support the g-pawn. Bishop oscillates to stop black a-pawn. The f5 pawn becomes a target. King f3, bishop d6. Black is in Zhongyi-like situation and resigned on move 51 with bishop d6, a quick move that creates an unstoppable plan. And now this game was already lost for Tan because mate cannot be stopped. If you continue from here, like what will you play? King f2, g4, f into g4, king takes g4, king e3, king g5, king e4, king takes g6, a3, bishop e5, a2, king g5, king d5, bishop a1, king c6, king g6, king b5, f5, king a4, bishop e5, king a5, f6, and a equals to rook or queen, doesn't matter. Bishop takes the rook, king a4, bishop c3, king b3, bishop e5, king c4, king f5, king d5, f7, and black cannot stop the pawn from queening. I hope you enjoyed this beautiful game. Thank you for supporting, and if you liked my content, please like, leave a comment and share with your friends. Thank you. Bye bye. See you soon.